You're listening to Montreal Now with Aaron Rand and Natasha Hall on CJAD 800.
That is James Mennie. So, Jim, I thought we'd start, Natasha and I just happened to notice a scene here. I guess this was in the National Assembly today. Francois Legault, actually at one point, was he banging his fist on his desk?
Looking a little on the brink.
Yeah, the attacks continue, I guess, to some degree over maybe what he said about Paul St. Pierre Plamondon yesterday, but otherwise about the tunnel. This contained or not?
Oh, no, not at all. And I got news for you guys. The way this week is unfolding, the stuff I'm seeing today and yesterday, that poisonous blossom is going to get even bigger and sprout longer roots. It's not just, you can only lie in people's faces once, and then you can't go back and say, okay, now everything I'm saying is true, okay? But the number of climb downs you're going to see on the part of this government, not just on the tunnel, but on a whack of other things, a whack of other ongoing news stories, it's going to be a very, very interesting month, and perhaps may even be worse simply because this is, and we've been saying this for years, but this is literally a government that has been making it up as it goes along. And, I would use the sort of analogy that it's one thing to keep telling the teacher the dog ate your homework or your legislation or your immigration studies, but it's another when you finally have to walk into that big hallway where the final exam is going on. And right now, these guys have got nothing but a bunch of excuses people know to be false. So believe me, I have a sneaking suspicion the tunnel will end up being the least of Francois Legault's worries when this other stuff breaks over his head.
Okay.
I was literally watching it. And I said to Aaron, I feel like at any moment he could just explode.
Like lose it. Yeah.
Totally and completely lose it. And what would that mean? Like if he can't keep it together, could that potentially end his career?
Well, I mean, God forbid something should happen to him health-wise, but...
No, I don't mean like that, but I'm talking like Bernard Dranville storming out, and there were zero repercussions from that.
Listen, whether you like it or not, we're stuck with him for another 3 years. That's how our system works, okay? Now, if they're going to run around, banging their heads against walls and slamming beer cans into their foreheads in frustration, well, that's their problem, not ours, but they have made this particularly thorny bed. And when I'm seeing, we're talking about the tunnel. The other big story this week in the news is, of course, the number of screaming teachers we have in Quebec. Well, a question that was asked in terms of teacher misconduct to Bernard Dranville today was, well, should we have a professional order of teachers the way they have in Ontario? And Monsieur Dranville didn't miss a beat. He says, there's absolutely no way that's going to happen. That is not in the cards. It's not going to happen. Here's the problem. When Francois Legault was in opposition, he called for the creation of a professional order of teachers. That's my first card down the table. Today, a story that's not getting a lot of attention right now, but it will, but Radcan got a little scoop. The Quebec government, the Legault government, is revising its immigration policy yet again because the number of qualified foreign workers coming to Quebec, the number of applications have dropped from 5,000, more than 5,000 2 years ago to 2,200. Because why? Because remember that little genius Simon Jolin Barrette, when he was immigration minister, he ended up trashing 18,000 files? Right? And they changed the criteria, and the whole thing was just a complete train wreck. Well, now they have quietly decided to turn around and go back to the original system. Although to save face, they're saying, well, we're going to be favoring Francophone applicants. We want more Francophone immigrants coming to Quebec. I'm telling you guys, we're watching a real-time train wreck here. And so don't get too tangled up on the never to be ever in our lives tunnel between Quebec City and Lévis. That is the first kick in the head, self-inflicted kick in the head these guys have given themselves. Wait for the fun down the road. When it comes to very basic dossiers that they either don't have a policy on or had a policy on but now want to contradict, it's all been smoke and mirrors. And I've said it before. I'm sorry to have to repeat it. These guys have been hiding behind the pandemic for way too long, and now that big 12,000-watt searchlight is focused right on them, and we're seeing this government for the rather uninspired collection of opportunistic amateurs that they have always been.
I'm going to move from that, Jim, to talk about the federal announcement today. So this is on, I guess, I forgot what the original title we called this thing was, but it's basically a federal language bill. It's an update of the existing federal language bill.
Official Languages Act, yeah.
Right. So they announced a pile of money. I know that the Prime Minister addressed this in the House very, very quickly. So naturally, as soon as this is announced, because it deals with Francophones outside of Quebec and, of course, Anglophones in Quebec.
Yeah.
And they asked Jean-François Roberge, who's now the Minister in charge of French, let's call it, what he thought about this. That's basically his title in a sense. Here's what he said. Listen to this.
I think it's good for a francophone across Canada, not looking into Quebec specific situation. The plan promotes science in French across Canada, higher immigration of francophones. So I think this is good, but we want to have a measure. What's the goal? We want to increase the goal of francophone. Here in Quebec, we need to promote and defend French language, even in Quebec, because in Quebec, French language is in difficulty right now.
Really? Oh. All right. So there's Jean-François Roberge on the revision to the Official Languages Act. We reached out to the...
essentially saying he's not doing his job because he's the minister responsible for French language in Quebec. That's the first thing.
Yeah.
I love that.
Well, there is that.
And the second thing is, don't kid yourself. He saw that, he wants to get a piece of Anglos, and listeners, please don't freak out because I will explain this in a second. Anglo-Quebecers will be getting $137 million over 5 years, right, for, quote, educational and cultural projects, okay? But you look at the revision that was announced today, this should, and I'm not trying to be an angry phone here, this should be called the Official French Language Act, because the sole goal of this revision is to promote French across Canada, which is really swell. And don't get me wrong, French language minorities in other provinces may be happy as clams with this, but the fact of the matter is, what we're confronting in Quebec, a world that increasingly speaks not English but American. Well, the same thing's happening in the other provinces as well. So if Justin Trudeau wants to score points in Quebec by saying, "Look, I'm doing all this stuff outside of Quebec. I'm promoting the French language, across the country," that's fine. But the bottom line here is, I don't think this revision is going to make Quebec Anglophones or Francophones outside of Quebec feel any more secure in terms of the future of their language. The reality here is that, once again, this is the Trudeau Liberals love the show. They love pomp and circumstance. Big numbers, 4.1 billion over 5 years. But as we say in these parts, it seems that this entire legislative process has given birth to a mouse. And I'm sure once the opposition get their hands on it in the Commons, and once Monsieur Roberge takes a closer look and sees how much money he might get his hands on for Quebec, you're going to hear even more vivid criticisms of it.
So we reached out to QCG, and I think maybe if they're lucky, or I guess English groups across the province might get 20% of that. But that's all we know for now. It's kind of early in the story. Jim,
but how? What are the criteria?
Well, that's just it. Nobody really knows yet, right?
Thing?
Right.
Is it do we get money? Like we personally?
No.
No. Okay.
No. Okay. Let me just move on, because we're going to bring this up as a question we started the show with today.
Yeah,
right?
we did this as our first question of the day and had such a huge response. We're bringing it back. So audio of a teacher totally and completely losing it in class.
Yeah.
She has been suspended. The principal has been suspended. I personally think she should never be allowed to teach again. We asked for people's reaction to it, but I'd love to know what you think, Jim.
Well, I'm glad, I was going to mischievously suggest, I didn't know you'd done this at the top of the show, suggest that this be a question for you guys, because I got to tell you, I know we've often asked the question, who's the teacher who changed your life for the better? Mm-hmm. Who is the teacher who you knew had no business being a teacher? And I can tell you off the top of my head, over my checkered academic career, I can think of 3 people who, personal experience, who never should have been teachers, one of whom actually assaulted a student in front of 50 witnesses. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, the technology that we're seeing, and I think it's a good thing. By the way, there's a second case now. There's a kid up in Montreal who got suspended
at a high
because
school, right?
He recorded his teacher losing it. And now the union is saying, well, that teacher was driven the students are very bad and they were harassing him, blah, 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 blah. The fact of the matter is, if teachers actually act, in absent parentis, if they are the substitute parent for the course of that day, I'll bet you that no parent, if somebody heard a parent talking to their kids that way, the DPG will be on that like jewel on a baby. So it's high time that some light was shed. And no, I'm not painting all teachers as, potential psychopaths. And I know it's a tough job, but somewhere in there, some bolts have to be tightened up, and some either surveillance or program exists to keep these things from happening. If someone looks like they're going to blow a gasket, get them out of there before they do.
Hear, hear.
That's going to be our question coming up right now, in fact. Jim, thank you. Appreciate it.